Welcome back, Irish fans, to Breaking Down Braves Boys podcast. Today, one of the biggest episodes of the year, annually, season preview. Going to be one of our longer episodes, so I'll probably put some timestamps in the description if you want to hear certain stuff. But Trevor and I are going to do a deep dive on Notre Dame this year. Going to look at player by player, things we like about the team, things we don't like, and at the end, record prediction and ACC standings prediction. And then some preseason awards, which are generally stupid in college basketball, but we put some good thought into them. So going to dive into essentially every aspect of the team. We've been covering them all off season, and finally Notre Dame will be back soon on the 29th for their first scrimmage, and then the 13th for their opener, which Trevor will most likely be covering. I'll get into that at some point, but it'll probably be Trevor stepping up, next man up for that game. But first, going to do the season preview tonight, and we'll go to Trevor first. Our first thing is, what constitutes a successful season for Notre Dame, do you think?
I think I speak for every Notre Dame fan, and pretty much every Notre Dame fan, that if we don't make it to the tournament this year, then it's kind of another lost season.
Absolutely. And I think I'd even go as far to say they should win a game or two with this group. I mean, getting to the tournament's cool and all, but if you have the 6 old guys and then 2 freshmen and all those other guys towards the end of the bench, this should be a team that wins a game or two, maybe gets to the second weekend.
I like it. The further the better, obviously. I'm on board. So.
For sure. There's something wrong if they're not in the tournament, though. Had to get that out of the way early. But I guess we'll start – well, not start, but I guess we'll move on to what are 3 things you like about this team and 1 or 2 that you don't? I suspect they'll be pretty similar between the 2 of us, but I'll add on if I have any.
You want me to list my 3 right off the bat?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. All right, so my number 1 is just like most Notre Dame teams, everybody is a threat on offense. I think that's pretty much through the roster. I think if you had to pick somebody at the bottom, unfortunately, it'd be somebody like Elijah Taylor. But the first 8 guys are people that the ball in their hands or in the offense in general, I feel comfortable with. Adding Paul is huge. I think that makes our offense even more lethal. Obviously, we haven't had a post presence like that since old Johnny Boy was in town. So it'd be nice to add that back into it. My second favorite thing is the different lineups we can possibly throw at people. If somebody goes down, unfortunately, or if it's just not somebody's night, I think we can go in a lot of different ways. And I know Bray, usually he keeps saying like 7 or 8 deep. I think this year, those guys could be starters on other teams, which is something I don't think we've been able to say. So I'd say the depth.
Yeah. And then I had those same 2 as my top 2, honestly. I had scoring by as number 1. It's like they have all these guys that can score. But the thing is that I really like is they have a go-to scorer, like late in games. They can go to Prentice. They can throw it down to Paul. It's not like they're one of those teams, and when you get in the tournament, they have no idea what to do when you get to that end of the game. It's like you have guys who can put it on the deck late in the game and get a basket. Even Cormac and George are both pretty clutch. So overall, I love the depth they have in the scoring. And then the third thing I had was experience. Braves teams are always better when they're old, and a lot of college basketball teams in general are just better when they're old. And this team is probably the oldest team Braves had, maybe since when? The Elite 8 team? I don't know.
I'd say so.
Yeah. This is one of his oldest teams yet, so they're if it's not now, it's –
I think you nailed it with the experience. I'm not going to lie. That's a good one. I like that one. I don't know why that one slipped my mind. But
yeah. And then
I had to go backwards. My bad. I had to go backwards, but the more you keep talking about it, the more that I have to say, like, we really do have the makeup of a team that can make some noise in the tournament.
For sure. I don't know about the Ken Palm ranking at 27. We'll get into that later, but this is definitely a team that should be in the tournament. I don't know if those expectations are fair to put on them at this point, but tournament team is absolutely fair, like we talked about.
Right.
So I'll get into stuff I don't like, and then you can kind of go off of it. Number 1, we saw it at the end of the last season. I think the casual Notre Dame fan thinks this is like the end of the world, but I think rebounding could be an issue again. Just
Mhm.
because, I mean, Zona and Taylor are going to help with that, obviously. But Atkinson, I did a breaking down the tape on him like 2 weeks ago, and he's obviously put on weight and muscle since then, but he was getting kind of outmatched by Amir Sims down low. His rebounding numbers look okay. I think he'll be a better rebounder than Durham was for sure. But you're still relying on Atkinson, who's not a super built guy like Armando Bacot or Amir Sims or anybody like that. And then you have
Right.
Nate, who has put on weight too, but still not a above average rebounder in my eyes. So it's gonna have to come
Right.
from the guard. It's gonna have to be Dane Goodwin helping out down there, and I'm not super comfortable with that. So I'll push it to you. Anything else you don't like about this team right now?
Well, I just want to comment on what you just said. I mean, kind of like how you see our team as a scoring by committee, we're almost going to have to be a rebounding by committee team as well. I think Dane rebounds pretty well for a guard. Obviously, it's not ideal for him to be like your second or third best rebounder, but I mean, if he is, he is. I think Nate honestly is going to take another big step in rebounding. I think last year he took one and he just looked more physical. I think we both agreed on that, just all over the court. I think he does that again this year. If that gets us over the hump, I wouldn't go that far, but I think we all know what's on the line, so I think we're going to be competitive on the glass. But something I think is going to have to be, or is one of our negatives. Obviously, I hate to keep saying defense, but defense. And then our second thing is I think when we start to play like the Dukes or the Carolinas or the Florida States or pretty much teams that like pick up the pressure on us, I think last year and in years past we haven't done a very good well at like staying composed and coming out on top of those kinds of games. We beat Kentucky in a close one. Same with Duke, I believe, last year. But going into this year, I think that's something that I'm looking out for.
Yeah, I wanted to talk on defense more because we don't have a really prompted area for this, but I almost think defense is going to improve. I don't know if that's like a super hot take, but I've talked about it all offseason. You have like Cormac, who's already a good defender, Wirtz, who's a good defender when he's engaged. I think he lets his offense dictate his defense a little too much, and he hasn't always been super locked in, but with Anthony Solomon, that's going to really help him. I think Hub is going to do a lot better job at moving his feet and getting in a stance defensively, like Bray was preaching last year. Solomon's going to help him. Dane's a guy I think he could really benefit from Solomon. And then you bring in guys like Blake Wesley, who's a really good defender, might have a case for best defender on the team right now, other than Cormac. Tony Sanders is a guy who's a really nice piece defensively, can really get after it and is versatile on that end, has long arms, can guard 1 through 4 against most teams. And then you bring in JR, who also has a lot of potential on that end. He's still got to get a little bit better at moving his feet and staying with guys, but there's a lot of upside there. And then down low, you got physical guys like Zona and Taylor who can really help. And I think with the new coaching staff, this team is just going to be tougher all around and better moving their feet, staying in front of guys, and hopefully they can end possessions early by rebounding. I think we understated the importance of Zona and Taylor a little bit there. They could really help, but I think it's going to come down to rebounds, but defense is really going to be improved in my eyes. I don't think they're not going to be a top 5 team in the ACC in defense, obviously, but if it's serviceable, this is a really good team. So
I
that's
think
kind of
what
my
you're spot
thoughts.
on there. Yeah, no, you're spot on. I mean, we don't have to be one of the best in the country. We literally have to be serviceable. Yeah, and I think this year kind of being like the last possible year that that this team is together. I think they all know what they have to do in defense. I think is like the big thing that they've been preached to all summer about. So I'm with you, man. I think those are some good points.
For sure. I love the coaching staff stuff. I think we kind of well, I don't know if we understated it, but I don't know if I realized the impact it would have on the group. And I think the fan base is kind of forgetting about all that we've talked about throughout this, about them improving on that. I think people just assume it's going to be worse, but I think they're kind of looking up in that aspect to me. But yeah, I guess we'll go on to player-by-player analysis now. We'll start with Prentice Hub. I guess I'll go to you, Trevor, for Prentice. One of the main pieces of Notre Dame's team this year.
Right. I mean, I still think he's like the leader. I think Bray keeps harping on the fact that he's one of the most vocal guys on the team, which I think is what you kind of should be as a point guard. I think he's somebody who, he I think we're going to get basically what we got last year this year. Like we keep saying, like we're scoring by committee. Like we're a team. Like all five guys can score, all that kind of stuff. So I don't think his numbers going to be super flashy or anything like that. But I think we will still kind of ride his coattails because he still did kind of play more consistent than Cormac or Trey and Dane and Nate for that matter. He wasn't always the best, but I still think he's somebody that as he goes, we go, kind of like how Bray usually talks about him.
For sure. He's Bray's Mahomes. I don't know how many times we've heard him say that. But he's right. I mean, the show runs with Prentice Hub no matter how much talent you have on the wings. And Notre Dame has it right now, but Prentice Hub is the guy, whether you like it or not. I know a lot of Notre Dame fans don't, but I feel okay about that. I just like to see a little more consistency and him be a little less erratic. But to me, he trended positively in that direction towards the end of last year. I don't know if you feel the same or a lot of fans feel the same, but I thought he's got a little bit better slowly as time's gone on about moving the ball, getting it to his teammates to make plays. But, I mean, it kind of shows with him leading the ACC in assists last year, which is a stat you would never believe if you went on Notre Dame Twitter. But
yeah.
Any other thoughts on Prentice? I think it's essentially pretty straightforward with him. I feel like we're going to see more of the same. I think Prentice is – if there's anybody on the team that's close to their ceiling, it's Prentice. Maybe not defensively, but offensively, I think Prentice, we kind of know we have. I think, to me, for Prentice, you kind of just hope that he's on in March. Maybe he's not as consistent in general, but I would love to see – I'd be completely fine if Prentice finishes the regular season with like six-point games and then goes off in March Madness in the ACC tournament. That's what Notre Dame needs. That's when they need him, so –
Heck, I'm on board with that as well. My kind of thing with Prentice, and I think it's with a lot of Notre Dame fans, is the fact that he came in as a 4-star freshman, part of the big class. Like we kind of handed him the key. Obviously, Bryce said that from the beginning as well. And you look around the league or around the country in general, and you kind of see people who are put in that same position, and you just see them kind of grow and grow and grow and grow. Prentice has gotten better, absolutely. It's just kind of like, I mean, defensively, you know what to expect. It's kind of like below average, but offensively, I'm still kind of in this mindset where I think Prince could like just take over a game if he wanted, and it kind of almost seems like he himself holds himself back. I don't know if that's what everybody else sees, but sometimes that's what I feel like is going on. And we kind of, especially last year, like I thought there were times where we just like need Prentice to go make things happen because other people weren't doing it. So I think that's something that going into this year I'd like to see him do. It's just kind of like not necessarily like have to go out and dominate the ball and all that kind of stuff, but like be the leader, like take the big shots, make the big plays, like want the ball, go do all those kinds of things. So.
Gotcha. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I kind of agree. I think it'll help that he's not playing 38 minutes this year. He's not playing 38 minutes because I really think he faded towards a lot of the end of those games. Like Ohio State, you could see he was gassed. Like he was not in enough shape to play that whole game. So hopefully they can get him some spot minutes with maybe Cormac or Trey playing the point, and then Blake and whoever else on the wing. So I think that'll help him, and maybe that'll help with Prentice not fading down the stretch. I mean, when he's going, he's going. I think we all know that. Like Duke and then Wake Forest towards the end of the year when the Wake Forest fans were yelling some crazy stuff at him, he really got going. Maybe we need to get like Antoni Weich to just say something, just violate him before the game, say something crazy to him. Maybe that's the plan.
Hey, if that's what it takes. How about Matt Zona? Get Matt Zona in on it, dude. Let him get him fired up.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like that's what works with Prentice. I mean, I'm half joking there, but like if you get Prentice fired up and going, then there's not a whole lot of people who can beat this team.
That's my point, man. It's like every game I'm thinking like we have the point guard. Like let's go make things happen. Let's go win games, and it doesn't always go that way. But
yeah, I would say Prentice is probably a top 3 point guard in the league going into the season. So regardless of what Notre Dame fans think of him being erratic or whatever, I mean, if he's getting that kind of respect nationally, Notre Dame players off
Yeah.
out, then we're in good shape.
Yeah. I wouldn't go as far as saying like he's erratic. I'd say he's more just kind of like, I don't know, there are just such moments where he like fades out, man, or like the moment gets too big and he kind of just, I mean, I guess that's kind of erratic, but like, it's not like he gets the ball and I'm like, oh boy, like here we go. Like, I mean, like you said, like I think the talent's there. Obviously, I think he just has moments where he doesn't let it show. Almost, it's kind of probably a poor way of putting it, but
Let's just hope it comes with experience this year. But moving on to a guy who we're both really high on. I've heard some really good things about him this offseason on the floor and as a leader. And I think I've kind of talked myself into a breakout year, made a video on it a few weeks ago. This guy's the full package, just need to be more consistent. Cormac Ryan, who we're going to maybe have a hot take about later in the video, both of us. But any thoughts on Cormac this year? I know you got a lot.
To me, he is the most fun player to watch on Notre Dame. He just looks so fired up, man. I mean, and I think last year was tough for everybody, but especially for somebody. We kind of put a lot on him too. Bray talked him up quite a bit, and he probably didn't have the season that he was hoping he would. But going into this year, everything sounds good. Everything's looked good to the people who have seen it. I think he really is, like, he's your leader, your vocal leader. He plays hard all the time, and it shows. Plays on both ends of the floor, which is ideal, obviously. And I think he's somebody who's going to have some really big plays this year, and somebody who is going to get a lot of tough assignments. And I think he's the guy that goes like, put me on him, coach. I'm gonna do what I can, and I'm gonna try and lock this guy. Like, he just has that mindset that you want on your team. He's somebody that I think everybody would want to play with. So
yeah, definitely. Cormac is a huge breakout candidate for me, which is weird to say because he averaged almost 10 a game last year. But I think he has just so much more in the tank if he's aggressive and he gets off to a good start. I mean, last year early in the year he had a bit of a shooting slump, and then really got going in some games towards the end of the year, but still wasn't consistent. I just love to see a consistent, under control, aggressive Cormac Ryan. People forget that last year was only his second year of college basketball, and he was hurt the majority of his first year and still playing. So if you believe in the sophomore to junior year leap under Bray, I know it's mostly a big man thing, but Cormac hasn't played a whole lot of basketball in college like the rest of these guys have, even though he's near their age. So I think he's a sleeper for maybe an all-ACC team this year and somebody that's really going to make Notre Dame go. Overall, last year he was the third best player on the team, regardless of what the numbers say, but just so well-rounded, such a great guy to have on your team. And we saw that in games like Duke where he just went off, took over the game, and then games like Wake Forest where the stats may not show it, but he also essentially took that game over, just made play after play after play.
Right.
So really high on Cormac Ryan going into this year. Any closing thoughts on him, or are we moving on to Trey Wirtz?
Let's move on to Trey, man. Let's keep it rolling.
All right, so I'll go to you for Trey because I kind of went off on a tangent about Cormac. Had to. He's a big breakout candidate for me, but what are your thoughts on Trey going into this year?
This is where it gets crazy, man, and I really want to know how Bray does the rotation because I like Trey. I like Trey a lot. I think you kind of mentioned it earlier, getting Prentice some breaks and letting Trey kind of go out there and be more of the one. I think that's what he's more accustomed to doing and something he feels a lot more comfortable doing. So I think that's where we'll get our best Trey Wirtz. He definitely has the package of being a combo guard too, so he can play off the ball fine as well. But I think if we're going to get the best Trey, it'll be when he starts to get the ball in his hands more. I really don't know what to say or expect from him, honestly. I just feel like he's kind of not necessarily placed on a shelf, but like to have him come off the bench. It's kind of impressive, to be honest with you. It's kind of part of the depth part I was talking about. But, I hope he just goes out there, embraces the role, and knows that he's still probably going to play probably close to 20 minutes somehow, some way. I don't know. Maybe a little less, but he's going to be a big piece of this, and I hope he, kind of just does his thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited for what Trey Wirtz can bring. A lot of people forget they just threw him out there last year.
Right.
I don't think he thought he was going to play for a good amount of time.
Right. It was like 20 minutes before the Duke game or something like that, right?
Yeah, and then he gets thrown in an offense with Prentice and Cormac. Cormac and Dane were both really similar to him, so it was I felt like it was kind of hard for him to have a role in that offense and get into the flow of it. His dad kind of talked about that when Jake and I interviewed him a few months ago. I think he's a guy that could really benefit from a full offseason offensively, just getting into that flow and learning how to play with these guys. I also think he's a guy that can benefit from Anthony Solomon defensively, just really unlocking that potential he has on that guy, on that what's it called, on that end. But I don't know that he'll have a big numbers leap, but I think if we see Trey attack the basket more and it seems like he's more in the flow of Notre Dame's offense, that's a win. And I still think he's going to have those games where it's like, what games were it? It's like Purdue in the first Duke game where Trey Wirtz was the best player on Notre Dame that game. I think we'll have a few of those too. So really excited for what we can have out of Trey Wirtz. I think he's a guy that a lot of people are kind of putting to the side with the new Blake hype and Prentice hype and all that. I think people are forgetting about Trey Wirtz, and they probably shouldn't be.
No, I'd agree. I think you're right when you say he kind of got put into some rotations that I think were a little odd for him. He going back and watching some of the games from last year, he was playing with like Cormac and Prentice at the same time. That's a lot of people who kind of want the ball and almost need the ball to be able to do their thing. The thing I like about Trey too is compared to Prentice, I feel like Trey turns the corner more and does attack the basket more, which obviously opens up your offense. But I like the fact that he does that, and that's something I wish Prentice did more. Other than that, I think he's yeah, man, that's all I really got on the guy.
Yeah, I just hope he can stay healthy too. I don't think people realize he was really banged up a lot of the season. I think he had a neck thing towards the end of the year that nobody really knew about. And then he had that ankle injury that was kind of nagging him the whole year, and he didn't really look the same the few games after that. So excited to see what he can do. I hate making excuses for guys like that, but I think if there's a guy you can make excuses for last year, it's Trey in essentially every aspect. So hopefully this year he can be more the guy Notre Dame fans thought they were getting. And he still shot 43% from three last year, which is
super casual, man. That's
yeah, I don't think people realize that. So definitely excited to see what role he can play on this team in a few weeks. But speaking of three-point shooting, let's move on to Dane. This year, I think Dane makes the biggest leap out of anyone in the 2018 class, not because he increases scoring numbers by a whole lot, but I think he's got some room to go up generally. Like defensively, I think he'll be a little bit better. You've talked about this in past podcasts where he's had some rough matchups defensively, like he's having to guard guys like Aaron Henry and stuff who he has no business guarding. But I think he can improve a little bit in that aspect and become more efficient too. I think that would be something that could definitely happen. I mean, he shot the fourth highest percent from three last year on the team, which I think most people would not guess. Trey Wirtz, Jogo, and Laz shot a higher percent from three. So I think Nate can really get closer to 40%. That's a big leap for him and something that's big for Notre Dame. And I think a guy like Dane, if he can hit big shots deep into March or even in the first couple weeks of March, then I think his legacy is going to be changed from what it is, even if he doesn't have a great statistical year.
Right. Honestly, dude, we were just kind of talking about our starting five could probably all average over 10 points. And I think if you look at our starting five, Dame would kind of be the fifth option, hypothetically. And that's kind of nuts, to be honest with you. I think he has the scoring potential, not to go crazy or anything like that, but he's shown us that he has the ability to have performances where he can score 20-plus points, So they kind of had him as your fifth option. That's a really good thing for us, obviously. But he's kind of one of my favorite players to watch, too. Not so much on the defensive end. I hope that's something that, they're working on him with, and he'll get there. But he, like you said, he does kind of have, the unfortunate spot of being the guy that has to kind of get forced to play the three. But offensively, man, he kind of posts up smaller guys. He likes to shoot that mid-range jumper, and if he can shoot that three ball more like he has in the past, obviously, those are all things that could take his game to the next level too. But I love the fact that he rebounds as well as he does. I don't think if you saw him, you'd think he's somebody who would be up there in our getting boards for you or being one of our best rebounders, but he typically is year by year. So.
Yeah, this year I just want to see him be a killer more. I don't need any big statistical leap from Dane or anything like that. I just want to see Dane catch and shoot, knock it down in the clutch, just like he did in past years where he's staring down the crowd, just firing the team up, making momentum swings. I'd love to see Dane do that more this year because I don't think he has the score off the dribble ability of Trey or Cormac or Prentice. Mm-hmm. But he's that cold killer that Notre Dame has who could really away late in March. So that's what I want to see him over any statistical thing. And obviously the defense, which you touched on. But moving on to Nate, who is a guy we're both pretty high on. You want to go first with him?
Yeah. I think we mentioned it a little bit earlier. I just think he's going to be a lot more physical again this year, and kind of take even more of a role of just being proving that he's somebody that plays defense at a higher level, rebounds at a higher level. I think he just kind of has that mentality that almost like when we lost John, I think it was known to everybody that he was gonna have to pick it up on the glass. I think he embraced that to the best he could. I think he takes another lead this year. He shoots the heck out of the ball. That kills most defenses when you got a big that can do that. He's getting better at taking people off the dribble as well. I honestly, man, he's just another piece in this offense that's lethal. So, hopefully he gets a little more consistent too, though. I feel like he had some games where he was quiet, whether it was just because other people were trying to get theirs and put their shots up, or if he was just off that night. But if he can get you like a consistent 12 to 15, man, I think this offense is going to be right where we want to be.
Yeah. I want to talk about this with Nate a little bit. I don't know if I've ran this by you ever, but I feel like Nate's numbers could dip a little bit this year, and it wouldn't be a bad thing. I feel like he could honestly at times be the odd man out. Rather than being the guy like he was last year, I think having Paul Atkinson there and all those guards and even the new guards is going to kind of take away some looks from him. But I think Nate, even if that happens, I think his efficiency will go up, which is hard to imagine. But I just like to see Nate take more guys off the dribble. I'm not super concerned about his numbers either, because I think he could be one of those guys that kind of takes a hit numbers-wise, but then when you look deeper into it, it's not his fault. It's more that Prentice and Paul and all those guys are running the show. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I've been thinking that for a minute with this team.
No, I mean, like, somebody is going to have to take the hit, obviously, and it might change from night to night. The only reason I say I think Nate's going to be somebody who's kind of more of a consistent, steady guy is I can see somebody like Cormac still kind of playing really well, but, like, be setting people up. Or maybe Paul's the guy who ends up being a little more passive on certain nights. I don't know. I just think I think Nate kind of has like he's a tough matchup for people. So I'm just kind of hoping that they exploit those.
He is, and I hope he can create more for himself this year, because that's kind of what killed him down the stretch last year. His teams were realizing that he wasn't doing that super well. But now I hope he can take more guys off the dribble and put guys in the post and score. So that'd be something big for Notre Dame if he could do that. But moving on to Paul Atkinson, I think this is one of Notre Dame's best players in that top tier for sure. And a guy that could be their leading scorer, just so crafty down low. If he gets enough opportunities, I think he will be the leading scorer, but I'm not sure that with how Notre Dame wants to play, he does get enough touches. But the thing I love about Paul Atkinson, too, is that if Notre Dame wants to run, Atkinson fits into that, too, because he can rim run. I've heard he's really been working on shooting threes, and he's improved in that aspect. So he could be a guy that really fits into what Notre Dame wants to do. And when he gets in isolation down low, he's really tough to guard. I just don't know how much they put him down there. Any thoughts on Atkinson heading into this year? His only year at Notre Dame.
Well, I hope we go download him as often as we can. To be honest with you, I think we really have to show that we do have that post presence again. Braze mentioned that he's a solid passer as well. I think that adds a whole nother element to your offense as well. But I think if Paul gets going and he's, I'm not going to say he's going to be, the same as he was in the Ivy League, but if he can be pretty close or just a steady guy down there, I think it just takes our whole team to new heights. But defensively, I don't really know too much about him. I haven't seen too much about him. He's obviously not the biggest guy or the tallest guy, so but he's an older guy. He's like 23 or something like that now, so he's definitely definitely doesn't have a freshman body or anything like that. And I'm sure he's got the mentality to go out there and compete with whoever he's guarding. So I don't think nerves or big games or anything like that's going to get to him. I think he's going to be another guy who's ready to make a deep run, and he wants to make the most of this opportunity as well. So.
Yeah, I like that you brought up the passing because that kind of leads into something I was going to talk about. I think he just adds a new element to their offense, kind of like you were saying. Like last year with Jawan Durham, they didn't really have a whole lot of back to the basket post up scoring.
Right.
Durham was more of a catcher or maybe a mid-range jump shot here or there, but
Who knows that mid-range jumper, dude?
He does. He's been killing it in Latvia, I think. Good for him. But,
no, absolutely.
But Atkinson, I think, can add a new dimension to their offense. Dominant isolation scorer. And then a guy who you talked about with the passing can catch it at the top of the key, look for cutters, and make pass after pass and just wear the defense down with cutters. And Notre Dame loves hitting guys on backdoor cuts and stuff like
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah. I don't want to – right. This might be an extreme comparison because I feel like this guy did it really, really well. And I happen to catch a lot of their games. I think a lot of people have the last 4 years. But Cameron Krutwig, the big guy who was Loyola. Geez, Pete, I should never have said that. But who the way he could pass, I feel like Atkinson kind of goes along the same kind of lines there. And obviously, you've seen what that can do for your team. So get your easy buckets, easy looks at the rim by being able to hit cutters. So.
Yeah, for sure. So now we're going from Notre Dame's oldest guy to one of the youngest, going to Blake Wesley, a guy that the hype has just been slowly building and building. I've tried not to put too much expectations on him, but it's hard not to based on everything we're hearing and everything I've seen over the years. I've always thought that Blake, when Notre Dame first started recruiting Blake, I thought if this guy can get his shot selection down, essentially that, and he can just be more efficient from the field, then he's going to be a guy who plays right away. And he did that at senior year of high school. So to me, all he has to do is adjust to the ACC game, and he's going to be a really good player in college basketball. And Notre Dame staff seems to think that as well, based on what Bray said publicly, even, which normally doesn't get said publicly about a guy's NBA chances that early. But Bray has let it slip a little bit with the Jeff Borzello thing last week. But Blake his defense is going to be huge for this team. He's going to be effective early because of that. And if he gets going offensively, Bray said he's learned how to play with other good players. And then I saw that a lot too last summer playing EYBL, and then at Riley, his shot selection really improved under a new coach. But my only concern with Blake is that he shot 30% from three last year, hoping to see that go up. But part of that was probably because he was getting double teamed and box and one and stuff. But I'm really high on Blake this year. I think he'll at least be the seventh man and maybe work his way up towards the end of the year, which is baffling to think about considering all those guys we talked about and the depth they had in the first place. But yeah,
absolutely.
That's really high on Blake's chances this year. You got anything?
Yeah, man, I think he should sit at the end of the bench the whole year. No, I'm kidding. You mentioned the fact that the coaches keep talking about his NBA potential. And I'd hate to throw shade at it. I mean, they see him every day. And I've honestly only saw like one game of his, maybe if that. So, I'm kind of going off of your take on it and stuff like that. But I love the fact that you're saying he gets down and he plays defense. I think that's a big thing for us at the wing, especially. I love how much of an athlete he is. I don't think we've had an athlete at the wing position since like Demetrius or something like that. So I think that adds something too, especially for the league we play in, and the kinds of teams we'll play if we do make a run. Shot selection I think is something almost every freshman struggles with. But I think the culture of Notre Dame kind of like almost forces you to obey that. So like I think by the end of the year I think he'll be fit or he'll fit right in, and hopefully we do kind of see him playing a little bit more. Whose minutes that takes away I don't know, but it is really exciting to kind of have a freshman back out there that you're super stoked about. So.
Yeah, I gotta address the athlete comment. Are you forgetting we had like 6 games of Robbie Carmody before he got injured?
Okay. You should never allow me on here again.
We can't forget about the UNC Robbie Carmody game where he scored like 4 minutes, and then unfortunately we know what happens after that. But we can't forget about Robbie Carmody and his little explosive.
No, hey man, you're right. I should not have let that go over my head.
But also, one more thing I wanted to add on Blake. I think the energy he brings is definitely going to be something that's good for Notre Dame. Guy who's fiery, like Matt Zona, like Cormac, like Elijah Taylor. It's good to see that there's some more intensity getting back in the team. You'll see Blake dunk on a guy in college and then in high school, and then he's yelling at him and stuff.
There you go.
I think that's something that Notre Dame needs badly. The team seemed kind of dead at points last year, and to bring a guy, not only a new guy, but a guy who brings energy like that in is huge for them. So
you're right. No, I think you see it, throughout the league, throughout the country. Really, is just especially people who come off the bench. Like they know that's their role, so they come out with an edge, and they, teammates feed off that. So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if that's what he brings, it's obviously another positive thing for him. So.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about JR this year, but I guess we'll touch on him for a minute or two. I think he does. I think if he has a role this year, it'll be as a microwave scorer, which is fine for him considering a lot of the parts of his game aren't developed enough yet. Bray said he hasn't necessarily learned how to pass and cut and everything like that because he was the guy in high school, which you kind of alluded to. A lot of them are the guy. And JR didn't play in a super high division, so he's just a scorer right now. But he has a lot he can add to his game, and a lot I think he will. I wouldn't say he's cemented a rotation spot yet, even though Bray said that like a month ago. It seems like they've kind of gone back on that. Any thoughts on JR this year?
I don't really have a whole lot of expectations on him either. I hope kind of like what you said, he comes in and just kind of takes and makes the open shots when he gets them. Doesn't try to force too much. Just be comfortable, play your role, play hard, that kind of stuff, make your minutes worth and or count and stuff like that. So
yeah, I think he could be good defensively when he's guarding like guards, but I just don't see it with like guarding guys like Elijah Taylor. I don't have an example on another team right now, but guys like that I think he'd have trouble against. I watched a lot of JR Knesny over the years. I think he's ready offensively, but I don't know. I'm really high on him. I think there will be a time where I think JR could be Notre Dame's best player, especially if Blake heads to the NBA at some point. But right now, I think he's kind of still in the mix for a rotation spot. Maybe doesn't have it down yet because of Tony Sanders. You like that little transition there?
Oh, yeah, I'm on board.
Tony Sanders has picked up a little traction lately in the media. I don't know if we go solely off of one practice to say he's a rotation player, like all Notre Dame fans have, but
no, dude, let's go all in.
All right, if Alex Wade goes off tomorrow in practice, he is the starting point. But
front is down, man.
Yeah, but Tony Sanders is a guy who we've talked a lot about, has a lot of versatility, really helps you defensively, length and athleticism, can guard 1 through 4. And I think if he can do enough offensively, then you're in really good shape with him. If he can shoot, 35% from 3, knock him down when he needs to, and maybe get to the rim once in a while, he'll be fine. Just because Notre Dame needs defense bad, and the staff has really emphasized it, so I can see him maybe playing too. I think you're more of a Tony guy than I am, but I've kind of come around. Any thoughts on him?
No, man, I think you nailed it. I think, he's just kind of more of that glue guy that I think we would need towards the end of our rotation if Bray goes that deep or goes that far. If he can build off this one practice and keep showing it, I'm sure he'll get his chances. But truth be told, I don't think we'll really see too much of him this season. But yeah, I mean, I like the way that he's capable of playing the role he's capable of playing, which is just play hard defense, rebound, get out there and be active, stuff like that. The offense will come. I see him more being somebody who contributes a lot more like his senior year or something. Yeah, it's like a big year for us or something.
For sure.
I don't think he'll ever be the guy or anything, but
yeah, I think that'll end up being a guy like JR or somebody else. Well, JJ is gonna be the guy. Unfortunately, we can't talk about JJ much this time. We'll have plenty more JJ talk in the next few weeks. But I'll go to you for this one. I've given kind of long summaries to start the last few, but Robbie Carmody, I don't think we have too much to say about him because we haven't seen him much. But any thoughts on Robbie heading into this year?
No, man, unfortunately not. I hope he does have kind of just a few months that we can all, whether it's like a big shot or a big steal, rebound, whatever. Maybe he gets up and throws one down again for the fans. I mean, just something that we can go and be like, man, like what a trooper, what a dude, what a teammate to stick around, and go through these ups and downs of his career so far. But yeah, I mean, I hope the best for him, and I hope he gets some PT just out of respect and time he's put in. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think we can really say much about him. We haven't seen him much. So when he can stay healthy, then maybe we'll give a mid-season analysis of Robbie Carmody if he gets healthy. That might be jinxing it though. So maybe we'll hold off. We'll just let it ride with Robbie.
This one's on you, man. It's on you this year. You've jinxed him.
Oh, I've already jinxed him before the season started.
You should not admit these things.
I should not. But we'll move on to two other guys who are kind of competing for a rotation spot. I honestly think they'll probably coexist, but we'll start with Elijah Taylor, guy who we didn't see much of last year. I'll go to you again for him, 30 curveball. Thoughts on Elijah Taylor heading into this season?
Yeah, man. When we signed him and Matt Zona in the same recruiting class, I kind of was more in on Elijah Taylor just because I thought he was more Division I college ready based off the athlete he was and kind of what I was hoping Notre Dame would bring somebody in as somebody who plays hard and plays aggressive, can defend well, things like that. You've mentioned the fact that he's a lot quicker and able to guard, or switch on to guards a lot better than Matt Zona can. So things like that, I think, definitely go Elijah's way. I did see a video, if we're going to start going off these kinds of things, of him shooting threes, and the jumper didn't look too bad, man. So, like, if he can start to add that, maybe his role increases, or maybe his, 2022 season is his breakout year. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think that jumper is going to be big for him. I think Taylor is a guy who might struggle to get into the flow of Notre Dame's offense a bit, with Atkinson in the game especially. I think you're going to see Taylor more with Nate on the floor this year, if he's on the floor, just because I think if they're going to play the 4-out, 1-in, Taylor's got to be the 1-in, but he's also only 6'7", so it's going to be interesting. Like, most of his points are coming off face-ups and stuff.
Right.
But Taylor's a guy who is only 6'7" and doesn't have too much of an outside game. I think he has more of a mid-range than three. Hopefully he's developed a three this offseason, but I'm interested to see how Notre Dame incorporates him into the offense, and that'll be something I'm watching with him. I think he – go ahead.
Well, I'm right there with you, man. I mean, him not playing last year kind of took away our ability to be able to see how well he can finish around the rim, especially with typically probably bigger people guarding him, which I don't think most high school bigs have to deal with. I think that's kind of the big transition. So we didn't get to see that last year. I think that's kind of like a big thing for him in getting playing time, because if he struggles to score over bigger people, offensively, I'm not sure what he can really do. Not to throw shade at him. I'm sure he's a talented guy. I haven't seen it with my own eyes. So I think a lot rides on that.
He's now listed at 6'8" also instead of 6'7". So if that –
he's coming.
But yeah, I think he has all the athleticism and everything you need from him on the defensive end in the world. But we got to see it offensively. I think he's skilled, but I just need to see him coexist with Notre Dame's other bigs and get into the flow of that offense before
Right.
a huge Elijah Taylor guy for this year. But I do think he should play, and I think he will play at least a little bit. I think he'll probably split games with Zona based on whether their guards are quick or whether they want to switch or whatever they want to do. So that's something to watch for. And we've talked so much about Zona, might as well go to him. Matt Zona is the last guy we're going to talk about that probably has a shot for the rotation. I'll probably touch on Wade and Morgan. I don't know if Trevor has anything on them because the walk-ons, but Matt Zona, I'll shoot to you first, Trevor, because I think I went first. Actually, I went first on Taylor. Or no, you went first on Taylor. I'll give you Zona too. You got to get the dynamic duo. You go first on.
I appreciate that, man. It's quite the honor. I actually kind of enjoy it being the guy who beats out Taylor just because he got to play last year. Kind of has just a little bit more experience with the offense in this team. Not to say that Taylor would be that much of a takeaway, or he'd be able to take away so much from this team. But I think with how much we kind of have riding on this one season, I think we're kind of all we need everything to fall into place. I think Zona does that better than Elijah. Obviously he's going to have to improve on rebounding, the works, but I think he has it within him, and I think his size plays a big part of it too. So.
Yeah. The thing I'd love to see from Zona this year that you hadn't already mentioned, because you pretty much hit it all on the head with Zona, especially considering how little we've seen of him. I'd love to see Zona hit some threes. That's part of the reason Notre Dame liked him so much coming out of high school, is that he could shoot. I don't think he hit a three last year, so that's something I'm really hoping for, is that Zona can stretch the floor, and I think that's where he gets his playing time. I think Zona is probably a better guy to have on the floor with Atkinson, and Taylor's better to have with Laz.
Right.
You want to mix those lineups up, but Zona, I think, just needs to move a little bit better, rebound, and shoot some threes. So that's all we have for the scholarship players, unless you have any closing thoughts. I'll do some quick things on Wade and Morgan, and then we'll move on to our preseason awards.
You want to see Zona hit the three. I want to see his reaction afterwards. I don't know if I'm the only person who picks up on this, man, but I feel like he just loses his mind out there. It's awesome. So I'm looking forward to that.
Him and Blake on the same bench is going to be something. We're going to love that. And JR, too, bringing the energy. That'll be
I'm all for it. Yeah. I'm all for it.
But
Alex, actual fans in the stands, too. I'm sorry. I keep cutting you off.
Go ahead.
I just have fans back in the stands. So.
Oh, yeah. Gonna be electric if they're good.
Yes, sir.
I think if Notre Dame is good, Matt Zona is going to be the guy who the fans just completely
We're going to start seeing his face.
Yeah. There's always one of those guys on those good teams who people just love, even if not one of the best players. And Matt Zona is 100% going to be that guy if they're good.
Kind of I don't know if you remember Austin Burgett or Austin Torres, kind of like one of those things. Like they come in, you don't expect a whole much, but they bring that excitement and energy.
Yeah, Zona was almost that as a true freshman last year on a team that wasn't very good. So, I mean, imagine if they're good and fans are in the stands. There was multiple Matt Zona fan pages I ran into on Instagram. So,
oh, man, that guy.
But, yeah, I'll go to Alex Wade now, freshman, walk-on. I think you'll see him at the end of games early in the year when they're blowing teams out, but probably won't see too much of him otherwise. Alex Wade he's a really good basketball player, but he's a freshman walk-on. I just want to see him challenge Notre Dame's guards in practice, and then anything else we get from that's a bonus. And Elijah Morgan, I'd like to see maybe he gets some spot minutes. Notre Dame's deeper this year in that aspect, but I think Morgan is a guy who could run the offense pretty well and just help Notre Dame slow it down and make plays. So that's what I have on the walk-ons. Not too much, not as much as last year. But we'll move on to the preseason awards now. So here we go. All right, so now on to the preseason awards. We'll go with a bang early on, best player on the team. I'll go to Trevor first because I got a bit of a hot take. I don't know if his is, considering the Notre Dame fan base, but it might be. So go to Trevor first for this.
I'm going Nate. I'm going with Big Nate. Yeah, I think I don't think any one of our guys is going to have like a crazy year points per game wise. I think he'll be up at the top of it. But like I said, I think he'll just kind of take on more of a role of being even a better defender and rebounder. If his numbers go up significantly or not, I'm not sure. I predict that they will. I hope that they will. But all in all, I think he's somebody that I like watching, and I think he's somebody that our season kind of rides a lot on. So.
Hot take, but my best player on the team, not a big hot take guy, but this one I actually believe in. Cormac Ryan will be the best player on Notre Dame basketball this year. A lot of people are going to think we're idiots for not picking P-Hub or Atkinson. I think those guys are really close to being it, and I'm sure you do too, but I see a big jump from Cormac in every aspect. I think everything's trending towards him being Notre Dame's best player. And last year I thought he was the third best player on the team, even though he's the fifth leading scorer, just because he's so good all around in pretty much every aspect: leadership, defense, passing, and he can score, he can shoot. I think he's Notre Dame's all-around best, most talented player outside of maybe Blake Wesley. And I think he's going to show that this year. People forget it's only his third year playing college basketball, and he's just so good in all aspects. And he's a glue guy, but he's still an unbelievable player in most aspects. So we're a little different there, different than what a lot of people would say, but that's what I'm going to go with, Cormac Ryan.
No, dude, I think you nailed it on the fact that he's an all-around guy. I think that's all you kind of have to say. I think he's the most balanced player on Notre Dame. So
yeah, for sure. So I guess I'll go with my leading scorer here. I'll make it up to the P-Hub faithful here and say Prentice Hub will be Notre Dame's leading scorer this year. I believe that one. He was last year pretty much far and away, and I think he will be this year as well. Did you have the same thing, or you got somebody else?
I'm going Nate again, man. I don't know what he did to deserve this, but I'm going Nate.
Yeah.
I just think he's just such a – I mean, he shot like 40-some% from three last year. I think he'll get even better looks this year. I think his game will improve. His game will take another step on taking people off the dribble and even maybe just down low in general. So I think with all that, I think he comes out on top of a real tight race for who leads the team in points.
My monologue about Nate's stats going down might have just gone one through or in one ear out the other for you, I guess.
Yeah, I don't listen to you much. No, I'm kidding.
But for most improved, this should not be a shock at all to anybody who has heard me talk in the last 5 months. Cormac Ryan is my most improved player, and I wonder if you have the same thing.
Yeah, I'll double down with you there, man. I'll listen to you on that one. So
he's back to listening to me already. Freshman who contributes the most. I don't think we have to talk much about this. It's Blake Wesley.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
There we go.
Yeah.
Player they turn to most late in games. I think you have the same thing here, most likely too. Prentice Hub.
Yes, sir. I think that's where I give back to the P-Hub fans right there.
Yeah,
so.
There's a lot of them. And we'll go same thing here. I don't think there's even an argument for another guy. Prentice Hub, leader in assists, led the ACC in assists last year. He's most likely going to lead the team. And
I'd agree.
ACC again, especially with all the other guys they have. Most surprising, you came up with this one. I'm going to go with mine. This is essentially close to most improved. We kind of put a spin on it. I'm going to go Tony Sanders because I think he could make an impact. Even though I'm not a huge Sanders guy right now, I think he can make an impact, and that would surprise a lot of people. So that's my most surprising. What about you?
So you're the fan who took his one practice and is running with it.
No, start.
No, I have Matt Zona. I just think out of him and Taylor, I think Matt's going to be the guy who kind of solidifies that backup big role for the most part. And I think he'll just be a consistent backup big for us. I don't know, if he'll have any big flashy plays or anything like that. I think he'll just come out and kind of just do the right thing, I guess. That's the best way to put it.
And the last one, this one, I'm kind of going with a hot take here. Not as much as the Cormac best player on the team thing, at least to most people. My defensive player of the year is Blake Wesley. I think he just brings a new level of intensity on that end. He can walk guys up and down the court. He has long arms, can get in the passing lanes. It's just super aggressive. I don't know how to explain it. It's just guys like him who play defense like that and are so aggressive on that end are just really annoying to play against, kind of like Robbie Carmody. Who do you have?
I have Cormac Ryan. I think Blake might have him as far as like athletic wise, and I think Blake might be able to guard multiple positions better. But I think Cormac, for the most part throughout the season, will have to guard the opposing player's best wing or guard per se. But so I think I give it to Cormac just because he'll probably, like I said, he'll take on more of a tough opponent week in, week out. So
makes sense. I can definitely see that as well. I just picked VWest just for the heck of it, honestly. It was down to 2, and I figured since I picked back on everything else, I'd give VWest some love. But on to the 2 things essentially everybody's been waiting for. We'll put the record prediction for last, get the suspense going. Projected finish in the ACC. What do you have, Trevor?
Ooh, I'm going first here. I have us 4th, man.
Wow.
4th. I mean, we're not going to compete with Duke or North Carolina for that. I think we'll be battling with Virginia for possibly 3rd or 4th. Florida State in there too. So yeah, I think the top 3 are pretty much sealed. So I think we're kind of battling with Virginia for 4th or 5th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had them 6th actually. I think I'm a little higher on. It's not that I'm lower on Notre Dame than you are, because I think we're about the same on Notre Dame essentially. I'm just a little higher on teams like Louisville, Cuse. I'm not super high on Cuse, but Virginia Tech I'm really high on. There's a lot of teams in the ACC. I'm going to get ACC content from Twitter on later this week to talk more about the ACC. Trevor's not on Twitter, so he wouldn't know. But the rest of you guys probably know who ACC content is, leaving Trevor out on this one. But I'm going to say Notre Dame's 6th in the ACC. I almost think more 4 to 6 than 6 to 8, but I'm going to go 6th just because I think there's a lot of really good in the ACC this year, better than last year. Last year, I'd probably have them top 3 in the ACC based on how garbage the ACC was last year. But yeah, that's what I have them this year. Hopefully, they.
Yeah, I'm not sold enough to rebounding it much.
Yeah,
I don't think the ACC rebounds all that much either, though. So that's why I got them 4th or 5th. Louisville scares me. You're right on that one. VTech. I don't want to call the bluff on them being really good because they usually give us trouble every year anyways. Mm-hmm. But I think this group, if they are playing at their full potential, hopefully a little earlier than March, I think we work our way into 4th or 5th.
Mm-hmm. Also a sleeper team I have. I think Notre Dame's going to battle it out with them for whatever spot they're in. Miami. That is my sleeper for this year. Isaiah Wong,
really?
Best scorer in the ACC. Cam McGusty, Charlie Moore, the transfer. If they got Jalen Duren, they could have made a run to win the ACC, honestly. So this is going to be a really good team. So they just kind of lack bigs right now. So I'm a little afraid of Miami in their off the dribble ability, even though they suck.
Wong is tough though. that dude's tough.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. Probably the best scorer in the league. So crazy. But now on to everything that people have been waiting for. Record predictions. I guess maybe I'll go first because I put you on the spot last time. I'm going to go 20-10, 13-7 in conference. I think the conference schedule for Notre Dame is pretty favorable. I think it says more about the schedule than it does Notre Dame. I think in the ACC, that's kind of what determines your record is your schedule. But I really like that it gives them a chance to boost their resume against the top teams in games like Duke, UNC, but also more so gives them a shot to beat up on the bottom feeders like Wake, Pitt, gives them a lot of chances against teams in their wheelhouse. Also, like NC State, Cuse, GT. So I'm assuming they beat most of the teams in their wheelhouse and then beat up on the bottom feeders and lose to the top dogs. And then out of conference, I'm gonna say they get one of Illinois, Oregon, Indiana, or Kentucky. I'm not sure which one. I'm gonna say they grab one though. Trevor, you more optimistic or less optimistic than I am?
I'm a little more optimistic. I have us beating Indiana and Illinois. I know those are kind of hot takes. The Illinois one was a little for me just because of obviously Kofi and what do we do with that. I just think we're deep, man, and if we come out strong, I think we might be able to catch them. Same thing with Indiana. They have a lot of new pieces and a lot of stuff to figure out on their own. I think that's something we won't have to deal with. So I'm hoping that's two that we can go out and snag. I don't think we beat Oregon if we get by St. Mary's. I don't think we beat Duke or UNC this year. I have a splitting with Louisville, I believe, and then splitting with VTech. So I don't know. I think we'll, like you said, beat up on the bottom feeders. I don't think we're gonna like really blow out a whole lot of teams. I think a lot of them will still be pretty close. I just think we'll show this year that we have what it takes to end up winning those games that the last 2 years we haven't been able to pull off. So
yeah, for sure. And those both have Notre Dame in the tournament. Even if they finish sixth, they're in pretty easily, I would think, especially if they win 20 games. So
yes, sir.
That's what I
right.
But that's essentially all we have. That was our longest pod in like forever. If you haven't, go check out the JJ Starling one, and we'll have a ton more coming up soon. Be sure to subscribe. Trevor, any closing thoughts?
I couldn't hear you cutting it out, man. I apologize.
Any closing thoughts?
Man, I mean, the more we keep talking about this team, the more I can't wait for tip-off. We're obviously both expecting a tournament, which would be awesome. I think we all miss it. I don't know, man. I think it's going to be a fun year of basketball for us. So that's all I got.
For sure. Thank you guys for watching. Go Irish. Be sure to subscribe. We'll have tons of content coming out during the season. And yeah, hopefully we're covering a good team this year, unlike last year, which was just a grind getting through those last 2 months. So hopefully this year's a bit more fun towards the end, and can't wait for it. So thank you guys for watching,